In the last episode, we looked at the fundamental concept of Stula and Sukshma. We said everything is driven by the Sukshma, but we understand the unknown from the known. The unknown is like the huge iceberg which is beneath, whereas we just see very little on the known. We also saw that a couple of things which are so beautifully, so intelligently organized, the map between the 5 elements and the 5 senses, and we said they cannot be coincidence. There have to be an intelligence behind this. So we just need to understand. So we just set the ground for the next couple of sessions, that is today and a few other sessions, right? So we get going. Now, knowledge of self, knowledge of others. Okay. How much do I know myself? How much do I know my spouse? How much do I know myself? How much do I know my customer? Right? Knowledge of self is the focus of Vedanta, right? So we are not going to speak right now about others, though understanding others will automatically happen when we start understanding ourselves deeply, right? Then when we say understand others or knowledge of self, we need to have the first step as knowledge of our body and knowledge of our mind, because these are two major influences of ourself, right? We'll come to the Brahman and much more deeper concepts at a much later time. Right now, we start with something tangible, and this session you may find me go a little slower than last session because there's a little need for things to sink into the mind, and so I am going deliberately slow, right? And I'm not in a hurry, as I said last time. This session and the next session might go hand in hand together, right? Then we talk about body. There is threefold bodies, which is Shariratrayam. And when we talk about mind, there are 4 components of the mind. So we are going to be focusing on not just these two as independent pieces, but there's a lot of interconnection between the two. Like body and mind are like 2 ends of the pole, right? Single pole. Right? So when you move one, the other one moves. So when the mind gets disturbed, our bodily actions get disturbed. And when our bodily actions function very well, our mind also functions very well, right? So they are interconnected to each other. Now, how is the connection? Everything we will see it in a logical, objective manner. Okay. The basis, before we understand the threefold bodies, we need to have the very first understanding of what actually karma is. I think it's important to know this. I will not be dealing with karma fully. There are 2 full sessions dedicated only to karma. Right now, I am just giving the necessary information on karma, which is very important for us to understand Shariratrayam. Okay. Karma is a cosmic law. It's not a belief. Right. How do we validate this statement? That karma is a cosmic law and it's not a belief. So the question, do you believe in karma, is not a valid question, right? So do we understand karma? It's a law. Now, first of all, how is it a law? Right? Now, what is a law from a scientific angle? Any law explains what governs a consistent recurring pattern of events. If something happens again and again and again without failing, we understand that there must be something which is governing it, right? And hence we try to figure that out, right? So law of gravity, like every time I throw a ball, it comes down consistently, whether it is Newton's law, whether it is Archimedes' law. So any pattern that repeats consistently, there must be a law governing it, and we try to figure out what that law is, right? Either we can go through a logical forward research, which is a scientific process to understand something, or we can short-circuit it by an intuitive process where you just get to know what the law is, right? So let's understand what that law is first. Let's look at the patterns which seem to happen. First, there is a lot of differences and disparities in the living beings from birth itself. Like some people are born poor, some people are born rich, some people are born tall, some people are born short, right? Some people are born with high IQ, some people are born with low IQ. Some people have sick bodies, some people have very healthy bodies. Now, we see a lot of disparities and differences in living beings from birth itself. This is the first observation we see, and this is a pattern which is repeating, and this is repeating not just in one country, this is repeating across all the species. It's not only human species, across all the species we see the same thing, right? Second, children of the same parents are so different in physical, intellectual, and emotional makeups from birth itself. If everything is DNA, if everything is the environment that you provide the child, then the DNA of both the parents are the same, and the environment also is typically the same. Then why is it that right from the age 1 or even earlier than that, we see so much of difference between two children of the same parents? Right? And this again is repeating across different cultures, different times. It has happened 100 years ago. It is happening now. It will continue to happen. So there must be a law governing this. Third, this is a question that keeps happening again and again and again. People who seem to do good deeds suffer, and people who do bad deeds seem to have a good time. Now, this is a question that keeps hopping up in our minds several times, right? Is there a science? Is there a law governing this also? Is it really true for everybody, right? You walk to a place and you feel it's very familiar to you. You meet a few people, you feel as if you're connected immediately. You meet a few people, you get engaged through a formal relationship like a boss or a team member or a client and a vendor, whatever. And then even after 1 year, 5 years, you don't seem to connect with that person. You go to a geographical location, you feel you have visited this place before. Right? Right? And all this, again, many people have experienced it at different points in time, 100 years before, 100 years later too, right? Then a lot of prodigies demonstrate deep knowledge and skills when they're very young. When there's a person who recognizes all the ragas at the age of 3. There's a child who's chanting the entire Bhagavad Gita at the age of 4. Right? We had the prodigy Gayatri playing Veena. We had the prodigy Srinivas playing mandolin. Nobody believed that Carnatic music could be played in mandolin. Right? So how are these things happening? Now, when we don't understand something, we tend to give it a title. We call it coincidence. But tell me, all this cannot be coincidence. I mean, I think we're missing something, right? It's very easy to say it's luck. I mean, the popular word used in the West is luck. No, it's not luck. Somebody being born rich and somebody being born poor consistently across different countries, across different times cannot be luck, right? There must be some law governing it, right? So we need to understand that law. So what exactly is the cosmic law, which is karma, right? I will just give a 10 seconds pause for you to read this. Every deliberate action has associated impact. Okay, every word is important here, right? Every deliberate action has associated impact. Every word in this requires a lot of elaboration. What is deliberate? What is not deliberate? Okay, for example, breathing. Is it deliberate? It just happens. I'm not even aware that it happens, right? Pranayama, that's deliberate. So what is action? What is not action? For example, if I don't do something, will that also be action? Like Bhishma did not do anything when Draupadi was stripped in the court. It was inaction. But is that also action from a karma angle? Is inaction also action? Is action also inaction? So every word here need to be expanded, which we will do in the 2 sessions on karma, which comes later. But right now, I'm just setting the ground on karma, which is necessary for us to know so that we can proceed with Shariratrayam, right? So we are going to focus on this word called impact. Okay. So what is that impact? Immediately, thousands of questions will pop in our head. Impact only me or impact others also? I'm talking about my action, right? For example, we threw all kinds of garbage into ocean, and we use plastics left, right, and center, and we know the kind of impact it had on the global ecological balance, right? So impact, when we say, is it only going to affect me or is it going to affect others? Will the impact come to me now or will the impact come to me later? Will the impact happen only once or it will happen recurring? Let me take an example of, say, if I invest in, say, a retirement fund, right? I keep getting certain amount of money every month till I die. I mean, here the positive impact happens for a long time, recurring. Similarly, if I take a huge housing loan, an EMI I have to pay for the next 20 years. So here the impact is relatively negative, but it happens again recurring for 20 years. But there are cases where the impact is only once. Right? So is the impact small or is it big? Is it going to happen now or is it going to happen later? If it is later, how later? Right? Is it going to be painful or is it going to be pleasurable? So there are hundreds of questions that needs to be answered on that single word called impact. Right? Now, we will again answer all those words when we see karma in detail. But one thing we must definitely know this time, which is common to all the questions, common answer to all the questions on impact alone, is any impact is manifested as experiences. Let me repeat. Any karmic impact is manifested as experiences, right? That means I go through an experience which is pleasurable. I go through an experience which is painful. Painful on the body, painful on the mind. It can be an emotionally disturbing experience. Sometimes I fall sick. It can be an experience on the body, right? So there are hundreds of questions which we will answer later, but what is common across all those answers is the manifestation of the impact is always through experience, right? And to experience anything, we need a body and a mind. Right? For example, to feel sad, I need a mind. To feel happy, I need a mind. To feel sick, I need a body. Right? So to experience anything, I need a body and a mind. Right? So if we understand karma to this extent as of now, I think that's fine. We move on to Shariratrayam. Right? I think ultimately everything boils down to what is our standpoint. Right? For example, is your standpoint fatalistic? Or is your standpoint free will based? Or is your standpoint objectivity? Now, what is a fatalistic standpoint? Fatalistic standpoint is everything is fate. Everything is happening out of my control. I have nothing to do. This is a very fatalistic approach. Another approach is the opposite side. Everything is free will based. There is no karma. There is nothing. It's all my action. That's it. I am responsible for everything that's happening to me now, here and now. This is another extreme. The third extreme, no, there's no third extreme, third extreme. The third view is an objective view where we say certain things happening to me is because of maybe destiny, and we need to understand what destiny itself, right? And certain things that are happening to me are because of the current actions that I did. In fact, I remember posting, in the earlier, after the earlier episode in the group, right? If I've fallen sick, even after 1 week of healthy food eating, that falling sick is not because I ate healthy food in this 1 week. It is because I did not eat healthy for 40 years, right? So an impact of what has happened before is also affecting now. So it's always a combination of the karma plus whatever free will choices we make, right, at this point in time. So the standpoint that I would want to recommend to all of you in this joyful Vedanta journey is let's not be operating at any extremes. We must be operating at an objective viewpoint, right? Without getting emotional about it, right? The standpoint has to be objectivity rather than completely fatalistic or completely free will. Okay. So knowledge of self, body, mind, 3 bodies, 4 components of mind, and our focus right now is this. Okay. So this is the context in which we are going to try and understand the Shariratrayam. One clear objective for why we have a body in the first place, why we have a mind in the first place, is we are here to go through experiences, right? And we need them. We need both body and mind, right? Okay. Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. The 3 bodies that you're seeing. In English, we call it gross body, subtle body, and causal body. Okay, it's not casual, it is causal, right? It's causal body. Right? Stula Sharira is gross body, Sukshma Sharira is subtle body, Karana Sharira is causal body. We will analyze and understand all of this by 6 considerations. 1, what are the constituents of each of this? What is the material by which each of this is made? What is the purpose and function of each of this? What is the nature or swabhava, as we call it in Sanskrit? What is the nature of each of this? How evident is it? Right? So evidence, as we call, evidence is not in the sense of evidence for a murder. That's not what I'm talking about. So when we get to it, you will understand what I mean by evidence. Right? Then what's a lifespan? What's a lifespan of a Stula Sharira? What's a lifespan of a Sukshma Sharira? What's a lifespan of a Karana Sharira? We need to understand each of these bodies on all these 6 parameters. Okay. Now, how are we going to expand on this? It's not that we will take Stula Sharira and expand all the 6, then take Sukshma Sharira and expand all the 6. No, that's not how we're going to proceed. Okay. What we're going to proceed is, we're going to kind of mix and match. Like, for example, I may talk about, say, the material of Stula and Sukshma together. Then I may expand on the nature of only Stula first, then nature of Sukshma at a much later point in time. Right? But at the end of this episode and possibly the next episode, we should have covered all the 6 for all the 3. That means 18 aspects. We all need to be very clear, right? But it will not have it happen in that 2 steps. It will happen as a group, which is a logical group, right? Okay. I'm going to be using some technical examples here. I am fully aware that this group has people who are not technical. This group contains people who are medical doctors. This group contains people who have nothing to do with technology. This group contains youngsters. This group contains people who are about 60. I am aware of this, right? But we all need a upamana. That is, we all need an analogy to understand. I'm just using an analogy of certain tools that we seem to use on a daily basis so that we understand something else. We have to understand the unknown through the known, right? I commit to you that I will not use too many technical jargons, and whatever I'm going to use, I'm going to explain, and it is simple, common sense. We will be able to understand. If it is still technical, please pardon me. You can always reach out through questions and I will clarify that. So in front of you, you see a computer and you see a mobile phone. 2 devices, or at least one of it we use always, right? Now, this has got 3 components in it. One is, it has got a physical unit. I mean, the physical laptop, the physical mobile phone. That's a physical part. Then everything comes with something called operating system. Like if you have a mobile phone, people ask you what OS it is. You say it's a normal Samsung or any such phone. You say it is Android. Or if it is an Apple phone, you say it is iOS. If it's a laptop, you say it's a Windows laptop. Now that becomes the operating system, the fundamental driver, and that's a software. Whereas The laptop and the mobile phone is hardware, right? And of course, you also have applications. Like in laptop, you have MS Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Zoom is an application. In mobile phone, you have WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, all the applications. Right? Now, if you understand this much, I think that's enough. The question is are all these three important? Do they function together? I think it makes a lot of sense together, but individually without the presence of other two may not make sense. For example, well, I can't load the operating system like Windows or Android if I don't have a phone, if I don't have a physical phone. Or if I have a physical phone which doesn't have an operating system, I can't use it. That's it. It's a dead phone, right? So I should have the physical unit and I should also have the operating system together working beautifully, what we call symbiotically working. Like one is dependent on the other, and together it makes a lot of sense. And of course, these two alone are not enough. We need a lot of apps to stay with it, right? Now, this is the model that I'm going to use to expound on the Sharira Trayam. This is just the model. In one of the 6 pramanas, we use the pramana called upamana, right? Upamana is analogy. So I am just using the analogy, means of knowledge, to communicate about Sharira Trayam, right? We have Stula Sharira, which is HW stands for hardware. Sukshma Sharira, OS stands for operating system. Karana Sharira, you can visualize that as just a CD which is lying outside on the table. Okay, right? Or a pen drive which is lying outside the table. Just visualize that. Now, let's build a matrix around it so that we get the logic in our head right. Okay. You have a printer. You buy a new printer. You connect it to your laptop. Will it function automatically? Yes, there is something that happens in the background and you should know what happens in the background. In earlier times, it will not function automatically. You have to have as part of the operating system, that means as part of the Sukshma Sharira, you need a small piece of software which cannot be seen, which cannot be touched. How can I touch the software? Suppose I tell you, touch the Zoom software inside your laptop. How will you touch? Where will you touch? But if I say touch the mouse, you can touch the mouse. If I say touch the keyboard, you will touch the keyboard. But if I say touch your thought, where will you touch? If I say touch your ego, okay, where exactly will you touch? Right? So that is that small piece of software which is driving the printer. We call it the driver software. That also has to be part of the operating system. It has to be part of the Android. It has to be part of the Windows. And that driver software drives the printer to function. Right? But let's understand, that is still software. That is not hardware. Right? In the same manner, you have a device called eyes. Okay? And that's a physical device. You can touch it. It's hardware. Stula. But we still need a driver, that being a device, like printer being a device, eyes being a device. That device needs a driver, which is a software which cannot be touched, part of the operating system, which means which is part of the Sukshma Sharira. That driver has to be there. Right? Now, let's go back to our computer example. Come back to eyes. Is it possible that there's something wrong with the printer, but the driver is working well? In which case, the printout will not come because there's something wrong with the printer. Okay, suppose the printer is working well, but the driver has got bad. Okay, still it will not print. In this case, if you take the printer to a different laptop and connect, it will work because there the driver is okay. In the same manner, we have eyes. We have the driver software, which is driving us to see, sight. What if a person is dead? The moment a person is dead, the eyes are still there on the Stula Sharira. There's nothing wrong. The person doesn't see. The person doesn't see because the driver is dead. The operating system itself has crashed. But if you take the eyes from the person, replant it on some other body where the driver is working fine, but the eyes are not working fine, that person is able to see, right? So here the problem is not with the eyes, which is in part of the Stula Sharira, it is the driver which has gone missing, right? So at the time of death, our entire Sukshma Sharira is disconnected from the Stula Sharira. And the moment the Sukshma Sharira is disconnected from the Stula Sharira, none of the drivers are connected, right? So all of our physical parts which are lying there are just rendered useless, but all the drivers are intact, right? Possibly, right? We'll come back. We'll go. This is a very beautiful topic. It's a very, very logical and addicting topic to understand ourselves. In fact, frankly speaking, the more we spend time understanding ourselves, our interest to understand others will come down. Frankly, we are not interested in knowing others because there is so much to know about ourselves. What am I doing commenting on someone else? Right. Fine. So it's a very, very addicting topic, right? You need to understand this, that any device is on the Stula Sharira, the driver software, which is on the Sukshma Sharira, right? Now, what is on the CD outside? The CD is not yet loaded onto the computer. It all contains software yet to be loaded, right? So it contains certain possibilities. Maybe it contains certain new apps. Maybe it contains some additional components to the operating system itself. Maybe it has drivers to totally new devices. You don't know, right? But that's lying outside. That's lying outside as it's on the table. Yeah, right. Now we need to understand this well. The terms that are used sometimes are very misguiding, right? We say the drivers as Shakti. Shakti is energy, right? All the drivers are energies. They are software. If that energy is not there, even though the eyes are there, you won't be able to see, right? Even though the ears are there, you won't be able to hear. Because what is missing is the energy has become very weak. That means the Sukshma Sharira components have become weak, right? If it is Stula Sharira, you can replace it. You can do an IV replacement, kidney replacement, heart replacement. You can do all that. But what if the Sukshma Sharira goes bad, right? What do we do? How do we recharge it? Yeah. So there's again a series of questions which will come and we need to analyze them logically, right? The Sukshma Sharira drivers are called as Indriyas. In English, they say, right, the word Indriya actually means object, right? They say sense object. But the moment you say sense object, that word is a misnomer. Because object means it is Stula. No, it is not Stula. Indriyas means the softwares, the drivers. So when we say karma indriya, action objects. No, it is not action objects. It is drivers that drive the action objects which are on the Stula Sharira. Which means, what do I call the eyes then? What do I call the nose then? What do I call the ears then? If they are not indriyas, they are not indriyas. They are called as golakas. Right? The correct term for the physical eye, the physical nose, the physical ear, the physical tongue, and the physical skin, which is part of the Stula Sharira, the name is Golakas. Whereas the drivers that drive each of these devices, which is part of the Sukshma Sharira, those drivers are called Indriyas, right? So the correct word, we must be very clear. Then what about the corresponding word for Karana Sharira? We simply use the word Avyakta. Avyakta simply means not yet manifested. That's it. Not yet manifested. if you want an analogy, it's like in a software when we use, an application when we use, you will see certain menu options which are grayed. When you click, you can't click it because it is grayed option. Suddenly that grayed option comes into life. When you click it, another huge software opens, another 100 options open, right? So that means when it was grayed, it was not yet manifested. But the moment it is manifested, it's become something really huge, right? So avyakta is a term that I want you to understand. Avyakta means it is in a state of unmanifest, which is yet to be manifested. Now, I had recommended in one of the posts that please maintain your own notes, and in the notes maintain different sections, and in one of the sections you maintain a section only for shabdas, that means words, right? And start marking these words so that you can periodically review these words, because I'll be freely using these words once they're introduced, right? Because until they're introduced, it needs a lot of explanation. When they're introduced, you can use that word and that's it. You don't need much to explain beyond that, right? So Golaka is the name for what is present on the Stula Sharira, which is hardware, which is the gross body. Indriyas is the name given to the drivers, which is software, which is part of the Sukshma Sharira. And we have a driver for each device separately. Then Karana Sharira, all software yet to be loaded, which means basically anything that is not yet manifested. For example, when we were 8 and 10, we did not have the disease that we are having now, right? Now, that was still part of the Karana Sharira, right? Forget about the bad habits I had. I'm not talking about the bad habits. I mean, there are many people who ask me this question, Ranga, I have not smoked. I have not taken liquor. But then how come I'm getting cancer? Right? Now, the cancer that you got was not because, in fact, just because you did not smoke doesn't mean that you will not get cancer. Maybe the cancer you're supposed to get, and that was already there, part of the Karana Sharira. It was not manifested earlier. Now it is manifested. That's it. Right? So, before we come to detailed understanding of what Karana Sharira is and what can we do with it, or rather what we cannot do with it, we need to have a much stronger understanding of Stula and Sukshma Sharira. Right? Okay. Now, I proceed. A small clarification. This session and the next session together only will make a lot of sense. Only this session may not. So I request you to hold on to your questions till we complete the next episode. But till then, you can continue to read your secondary reading, right? Let's proceed. We said we will analyze Stula, Sukshma, and Karana Sharira on 6 parameters, right? Starting from component to function, constituents, and so on and so forth, right? So we'll first look at the constituents. What is Stula, Sukshma, and Karana consists of? You will see on the bracket 4, in Sukshma, you will see 19, and you will see nothing mentioned in Karana. I don't want to mention anything now in Karana. We'll come back to it. So, the constituents of the Stula Sharira broadly is only 4. The head, the face, the body, the 2 hands together, and the 2 legs together. These are the 4 broad components. Of course, we have thousands and thousands of other components inside the anatomy. We have the bone, we have the blood, we have the skin, we have the tissues, we have the muscles, right? We have the excretionary liquids, the urine, right? We have the nerves. I don't want to make this into a session on anatomy. That's not the idea. But I don't want you to go back with the feeling that these are just 4 broad categories or the components on the Stula Sharira. But none of this will work. The thousands and thousands and thousands of parts that we have in our body, none of this will work without the corresponding drivers, which are all in the Sukshma Sharira, right? So the 19 drivers of the Sukshma Sharira. For example, rewinding, coming back. On the face, we have all the golakas, right? We have the eyes, we have the nose, we have the ears, we have, of course, one karmendriya, which is the mouth, right? Everything is here in the face. Right? Similarly, there are other organs which are there, part of your body, like heart is there, pancreas is there, right? So anything that you can touch and feel is Sthula Sharira, right? Sukshma Sharira has 19 components. Okay. Right now, we are looking at one of the 6. There are 6 parameters on which we will evaluate these 3, right? The first parameter is constituents, right? What are the constituents of Sukshma Sharira? We have 5 sense organs. Now, don't unconsciously use that word organ. I don't want you to get confused. The organ here means physical. It is not. It is software. It's an indriya. English, unfortunately, doesn't have a corresponding word for indriya, right? So we use organ which sounds physical. It is not physical, right? So sense organs 5. That means they are also called as jnanendriyam. Jnana indriyam. Jnana is knowledge. These 5 drivers drive a person to get knowledge. So we get knowledge through our sight, our nose. So all the knowledge comes to us by sense organs, sense indriyas, jnanendriyas. Okay, they're called jnanendriyam, right? What are the 5? The sight, I'm not using the word eyes here. Eyes are golakam, and that's part of Sthula Sharira. Hearing is a Shakti, right? We saw that Sthula Sharira has Shakti, that is energy, which is Sukshma, right? So ears are Golakam, which is part of the Sthula Sharira, whereas the energy, the Shakti to hear is part of the Sukshma Sharira. Similarly, the Shakti to taste, the Shakti to smell, the Shakti to touch and feel, they're all part of Sukshma Sharira. I'll give an example. My mother met with an accident and her brain got clotted and went through a brain surgery. And after the brain surgery, 2 very interesting things happened. Okay. She regained her complete memory back in about 2-3 years. That's fine. But I'm saying her eyes no more will, wink. So the eyelids were there. The Golakam was there. But the software that drove the eyelids to blink in a frequency, we keep blinking, right? And that blinking was missing. And because blinking was missing, the eyes were not getting lubricated. And because the eyes were not getting lubricated, we needed to lubricate it externally. So every 1 hour, she had to be given an eye drop for the rest of her life. Every 1 hour, right? Because what went missing after the brain surgery was something in the Sukshma Sharira, which is the driver. Similarly, she lost the sense to feel the heat in her body. In fact, there was a time when her hand was on a really boiling pressure cooker. Her skin got burnt. She didn't even know about it. She didn't experience anything. Right? So we need to understand what is going wrong, right? I mean, it's not something physical. It's not something physical. Then it's something on the Sukshma Sharira that's gone wrong, right? So the 5 sense organs, sight, hearing, taste, smell, and this is Jnanendriyam. Then there are 5 action organs. This Jnanendriyam is input, taking input. You take knowledge by what you see. You take knowledge by what you hear. This is input. Then there's something called output, right? So you have to give out something. So the 5 action organs are called Karma Indriyam. Karma means action. The 5 Karmendriyam or mouth, which does the action of eating, right? Hands, which does various actions. Legs, which does the action of moving from one place to another, right? Then the excretionary organ, which pushes out the waste from the body. Then the reproductive organ, which helps us to keep our progeny in place, right? Which is procreation, right? So mouth, hands, legs, excretion organ, and reproduction. The 5 are called as karmendriyam. This is more output based rather than input based. Right? Now, these organ or softwares, that means they're drivers. The piece of software that drives your hands into action. Right? For example, you had a thought in your mind that you should attend this episode. And you had a conviction in your mind that you should attend this episode. So immediately a lot of things happened, right? That drove you to open your laptop, log in into Zoom, sit here, listen to me, make notes. Your hands are working, right? And your legs are not working. I'm assuming you're not walking around, you're just sitting in one place, right? So all this is happening by something which is driving, which is sukshma. You can't see it, you can't touch it, right? It could be passion. It could be curiosity to learn. None of this can be touched and felt, right? So these are the 5 action organs. Then we have 5 life energies, which are called pranas, right? They are called as prana, apana, vyana, udhana, samana. 5 pranas, 5 life energies which are there, right? Many people say breathing means you take oxygen inside, push carbon dioxide outside. But tell me something, there is one energy which is inside you, which is sucking the air from outside, right? What is that energy? And if that energy doesn't work, we are called dead. Right? Air is still outside. Just because one person is gone, air doesn't stop. Air is still outside. Other people are breathing, right? So what are these pancha pranas? It's called pancha prana. Pancha is 5, prana is energies. What are these pancha pranas? Pancha pranas are always functioning inside your body, and they are loaded at the time when you are inside the mother's womb. It's loaded, right? I think I made a mention earlier. There was a 45-day training that I attended in Coimbatore Ashram, conducted by Pujya Swami Dayananda Saraswati. 45 consecutive days, no Saturday, no Sunday, no break. You know what is the topic? What happens after a woman conceives the baby till the time she delivers it? What really happens inside? What are the softwares which are loaded? At what point in time, what is loaded? Why is it loaded that way? Why are different things loaded for different people of the same parents? Right? And of course, at the end of 45 days, all of us felt that the time was too short to discuss the topic. There is so much, and there is so much of clarity in our scriptures. Right? So what are these pancha pranas? Let's take a very quick look at these pancha pranas. We'll come into details subsequently. Prana is that main energy which is staying in your body, which sucks the life force, which is oxygen from outside. Apana is a push energy. It's not a pull energy. Prana is a pull energy. Apana is a push energy. It pushes waste out of your body. When I say waste, it is not only through your, I'm not just talking about your waste excretion. I'm talking about anything which is a waste. For example, when a dust falls in your eye and when immediately tears come out, who is pushing the tears out? Along with the tears, the dust also comes out. But who is pushing the tears out? Sweat. Who is pushing the sweat out? So apana is a push energy, and that's cleaning system. Okay. Then vyana. Right? Vyana is the moving around energy. It's the only energy which is moving around your body. It's carrying the blood. Right? Whether you're sitting, you're lying down, or you're in Shirasasana, it's carrying your blood. Right? Even in your coma, a lot of things are working. Right? It's still carrying your blood, the Vyana. Yeah. We need a gas to push it around. Yeah. Foot pipe, standard size for everybody. And it's kind of folded. How is the food going? passing through that so many meters and reaching the stomach. It cannot be gravity because the tubes are folded up and down, up and down. Gravity will only pull. Right? So Vyana, then Udhana. Udhana is the only energy which is both pull and push. Okay. Udhana is the emergency system. Right? Like if your lift is stuck somewhere, suddenly there is an emergency system which brings the lift to a point and opens the door, right? There is an emergency system. Like that, if you're eating a food and suddenly your foreign particle goes inside, we immediately vomit or we sneeze. When a foreign particle goes inside the nose, we sneeze. When we eat a foreign particle, we vomit, right? So that's the only energy that can suck and also push out, right? In fact, Udhana is the energy that finally functions. It delinks the Sukshma Sharira from Stula Sharira. And when Udhana cuts the Sukshma from Stula, and that's it. Now, we are given by a different name, called by a different name, right? Then Samana is a Vayu which is stationary. And it's stationary in the stomach. It doesn't move around. But anything comes to it, it works on it. Like it breaks the food into its nutrients. Right? In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am inside your stomach as the fire that breaks that. Okay. Now you may be wondering, why is only pranas mentioned here? The fire is not mentioned here. We have Panchagni, we have the fire also. But if you carefully see in your house, when you have a gas stove, what drives the fire? The gas drives the fire. In fact, if the gas is not there, the stove won't burn. So it is the prana that drives the Agni. Let's be clear. It's a prana that drives the Agni. So Pancha Prana is part of the Sukshma Sharira. This, what I'm talking, is for all human beings. This has nothing to do with whether you're an American, you're an Indian, you're young, you're old, you're poor, you're rich, you're a man, you're a woman, you're Hindu, you're Muslim, you're Christian. None of this matter. This knowledge is universal. You understand it, you will interact intelligently with the world. If you don't understand it, we will not interact intelligently with the world. That's it. Right? This has nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with rich, poor, no discrimination. What we are talking about is intelligence. Intelligence, the first attribute is non-discrimination, right? And then, of course, the last, mind, which has got 4 components. So 5 plus 5 plus 5, 15 plus 4, 9, 19 components. I have not listed the components of the mind because I am sure we won't come to the mind that easily. It's going to take a little time because we're going to be busy with this, right? Karana Sharira, all karma yet to manifest. That's it. Savyakta. Right. We talked about the constituents. Let's talk about the material. What is the material with which Stula Sharira is made? Sukshma Sharira is made. Okay, we'll come to Karana Sharira later. That's little subtle to understand. Okay. The Panchabhutas, the 5 elements, form the material of both Stula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. We have the earth, stationary. We have the space into which the body is there. See, it's not that space is inside the body. We are inside, the body is inside the space. Right? These two are kind of stationary. And inside that, we have 3 things which are non-stationary, which constantly keeps moving. Right? Like the air, fire, and water, they are constantly moving inside the body. Right? You have heat, for example. You have, no matter what cold condition, you're in winter, you're in summer, your body maintains a particular temperature. Right? Yeah. How is it maintained? Who is maintaining the temperature at that level? Yeah. And air keeps moving, water keeps moving, blood keeps moving, urine keeps moving. Right? So all these 5 elements are the constituents of, or the material with which the three shariras are made. We need to expand this a bit more. Okay. Space, air, fire, water, earth. Right? You would always see me use this in a particular order, and you know why I'm using it in an order, thanks to episode 1. And you all handled the quiz also correctly, right? So the grossest is air, and relatively the subtlest is space, relatively. Okay. Each has its own attributes. Means what? Like water has its own attribute. It doesn't have a shape. It takes the shape of the vessel into which it is poured. But whereas earth has its own space. We saw a beautiful matrix between 5 senses and 5 elements, right? So each has its own attribute. Like fire has an attribute to burn, right? Now, each can be constructive or each can be destructive also. Like earth can be constructive, but earthquakes can be destructive. Nice breeze can be constructive, tornado can be destructive. Water can be constructive, tsunami can be destructive. Candlelight can be constructive, forest fire can be destructive. Which means we need to understand that each of these elements has a tendency to be constructive or a tendency to be destructive, depends upon the proportion. Right? In what proportion it is manifested in us. Right? Interaction can be enabling or interaction can be disabling. For example, forest fire, the wind spreads the fire. Whereas in a candlelight, the wind puts off the fire. Okay. You can throw water and extinguish fire. You can close a candle with a bottle and you deny oxygen and the fire will go out. You can throw earth when there is fire. You can throw sand and you can put off the fire if there is a building on fire. So which means the interaction between them, one with another, can either enable the other one more or can disable the other one. Fine. This is at a conceptual level. We need to know this. Interaction between these can either be enabling or can be disabling. And different mixes are possible. Space, air, fire, water, earth, you can have in completely different mixes in a person. Like one person can be dominated by something, not dominated by anything else, and so on, right? And of course, different mixes have its own attributes, right? Let's quickly take a few examples. At the time of birth, at the time of conception, during or before the delivery happens, when the softwares are getting loaded in the Sukshma Sharira, there are certain standard software which are loaded, which is common for every body. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying every body, Stula Sharira. Okay. Like the driver for moving the hands, the driver for seeing the eyes. They're standard. They're standard for everybody. Then there is something specific for a person. Like some people have a sick body. Some people have poor eyesight. Some people have very strong hearing. Okay, they are specific to individuals. Right? Now, what happens is one of these 5 elements occupy 50% of the personality of the person. Any one. For one person, it could be space. For one person, it could be air. For one person, it could be fire, and so on. But one of the elements occupy 50% of her personality. Right? The other elements are mixed. The remaining 50% is distributed across the remaining 4 elements in various proportions. Again, the proportions can be varying from person to person based on his karma. Right? Based on what he or she has come to experience here. That's why the karma foundation I took is important. Right? I can be born with a sick body because I have come to experience sickness. I need a body corresponding to that. That's why in scriptures, in a very simple statement, they say we choose our body. What do we mean by we choose our body? That means what we choose, what we need to experience in this birth. Right. Now, one of these elements occupies 50%, the remaining occupies the remaining. Now, when I said everything has its attributes, for example, a person who is dominated by water, water does not have a shape of itself. It adjusts to the shape of the vessel into which it is poured. How does it manifest? As an attribute in that person. If he is dominated by water, he will become a very adjustable person. He's a very aligned person. He is a very good team member. He'll work very well in teams. Right? Because he doesn't have a shape for himself. He aligns nicely with every situation. Aligns nicely with every person. And we see these attributes in children who are less than 2. Right? Take an example about a dominated person. That's what I was explaining. Right? He doesn't have a shape of himself or herself, but is very adaptable. Right? And the other things are in different other proportions. Like a person dominated by fire. Person may have a very high temper. A person may have very high passion. Person may operate with a lot of proactivity, initiatives, and can be very hostile too, can hurt. Dominated by fire. That means 50% of the personality is dominated by fire. Right? And this happens at the time of conception. Right? A person dominated by space, for example, the least understood element, the most difficult element to understand is space. A person has attributes like forgiving. A person has divinely attributes like forgiving, gratitude. And that's why when somebody is giving a lot to charity, we say he has a large heart. What do you mean by large heart? It's not that his heart size is big. Enlarged heart is a medical condition. I'm not talking about enlarged heart. I'm talking about a large-heartedness. Large-heartedness here refers to a person can give space. Right? Now, when this happens, the temperaments are decided by this. A person having a harsh temperament, rude temperament. A person having a polite, calm temperament, sattvic nature, rajasvic nature. We are yet to see the 3 gunas. Right? A lazy temperament postpones everything. Yeah. All these temperaments, vasanas as we call, they're all coming from here. Then multiple intelligence, right? Learning styles can be different. I'll give an example of a fantastic research work done by Howard Gardner. If you have not read this book, I would request all of you to read this book. He has published a beautiful book called Multiple Intelligences. His source for this, obviously, is scriptures. He said there are 8 intelligences that are manifested in a person, and they are all manifested in a different proportion in different people. He described these 8 intelligence as linguistic intelligence, word smart. This linguistic intelligence, if it is very high in a person, the person is superb with languages. Spell bee, very popular event that happens. He is superb in spell bee. He'll win Asian championship, international championships in spelling very easily. Similarly, a person who is dominated by logical and mathematical intelligence, abacus is not needed for that person. He already has a calculator in the mind. Shakuntala Devi. There are people who are music smart. That means musical intelligence is very high in that person. Maybe a Lalgudi Jayaraman, maybe a, Yushin was a mandolin. Some people are people smart. Interpersonal skills are very good. If now you can easily understand from where these 8 intelligences must have come. They come directly from 5 senses. Sorry, 5 elements. In fact, this understanding, if we have, we will not push our children in the wrong direction. Just because neighbor's child is doing very well in spell bee does not mean my child can do well in spell bee. My child may not be able to even spell bee correctly. Right? I've seen some parents pushing children to dance. For what? And that kid cannot dance forever. No, the kid cannot dance at all because the kid is not kinesthetic. The body intelligence is very less for that kid. Maybe some other intelligence is very high, right? So what is this understanding, this knowledge gives us? This knowledge gives us a good sense of, first of all, knowing ourselves and knowing others also, right? We also understand why someone is behaving in a particular way. We also understand why we behave in a particular way. It's very easy to understand why some people are organized and methodical, but some people are not. They function much better in chaos. We'll know why. Because you know that each of these elements have its own attributes. Why? So multiple intelligences come from here. Learning style come from here. Learning style means some people are comfortable learning from visual. Some people are comfortable learning by listening to audio. Some people are comfortable learning by experimenting. For example, people who are comfortable learning by experimenting, you give them a lecture, you give them a gyan for 1 hour, they won't understand. They'll just give a blank look. You will conclude he is an idiot, he is concluded you are an idiot, continues. Because his learning style is not auditory. His learning style is experimentation. Right? So everything, all the temperament, the multiple intelligence, the learning styles, everything comes directly from the way our Sukshma Sharira is organized. Right? Then the life forces. Just to give quick examples of where it all means. It is not. I broadly classified the body into 4 components. Head, body, hands, and legs. That's all. But inside that, there are thousands of components, right? Starting from tissues to muscles to everything. And we said 3 things are flowing there. Air, fire, and water are moving around, right? So life forces, you see Vata. Vata is air. Pitta is fire. Kapha is water. These are the 3 basic constituents of our physical body and hence our physical health. How are they made? They are also come directly from combination of air, space, fire, earth, and water. Right? Urine has got a particular consistency. Blood has got a particular consistency. The reproductive fluid, the semen, has got a particular consistency. Obviously, all these are fluids, but they are components. The combinations are different. One is combined with water and fire, whereas another is combined with water and air. You take an example of a chapati dough or a fulka dough that we make at home. Atta, we take 1 kilo atta, but then we add just 1 small tumbler of water. That's all. There's nothing else added there. So it is 98% earth and 2% water. Mixed together, you get atta. And that atta can be used to make chapatis or fulkas. But without that water, you can't make it. Right? So Vata is responsible for movements, respiratory, cardiac, and neurological functions. It's called creative force. Functions of digestion, blood cell production, maintenance of body temperature. All this is Pitta, fire, sustaining force. And then eliminating force. Now, when we talk so much science, people may not understand. So for a common man, what do we do? The common man, we say creative force is Brahma, sustaining force is Vishnu, and eliminating force is Shiva. People understand people. And it's easy to scare people. You say somebody is giving protection, go to him. Somebody is killing you, don't go to him. All these are, I think when we go into the details, at the end of the day, that understanding creates a lot of comfort in us, right? Because we're using intellect to understand. Then similarly, physical constituents. Physical constituent, nourishing fluid, blood. Blood, for example, is fire and water. It's moved by the air. Right? Bone is earth and air. There is no water component in bone. Including the 6 tastes that we have. Every human being comes with 9 emotions, 6 tastes. Everything is deterministic. Everything is countable. Right? 6 tastes. Even the tastes are organized by the 5 elements only. Right? And if you go to advanced medical things like Siddha medicine, or even there are more advanced medical systems, right? They treat the basics. They don't treat the symptom. They treat the basics. That's all. They see that your fire component is a little mismatched, and I think that requires to be corrected, and that's it. They just correct it. Finished. Right. So deeper medical systems require deeper understanding of human body, deeper understanding of human mind. Right. We will discuss all this in the next session also. And then we will move to the Panchakoshas, which is the 5 layers of our personality. What are the 5 layers of personality? How is our personality made? Many of us think personality is the coat you wear and the suit you wear. Sorry, that's not the personality. So there are 5 distinct layers of the personality, which are the Panchakoshas, which are given in Taittiriya Upanishad beautifully. That is the next topic, but then next session, we will continue with this, right? And of course, this is all about the body at the very first cut level. We need to go to the mind at the first cut level. And then we have to come to the body, the second cut level, right? What's the second cut level? Remember, there are 6 parameters on which we're going to judge the body, understand the body. We have only seen the constituents and we have seen the material. That's all we've seen. We have not seen the functions. We have not seen the evidence. We have not seen the lifespan. Like how long will a physical body stay? How long will a Sukshma Sharira stay? How long will a Karana Sharira stay? What is moksha? How does it connect to Karana Sharira? We have to see all that. That is the second level of understanding of body. Then we have to come to the second level of understanding of the mind. Okay. So right now we are at the first level of understanding of body, over. First level of understanding of mind yet to be done, which will be done next session. Then the second level of body, second level of mind, which will also be done as part of next session. And that will bring to a conclusion Sharira Traya. All of this is so meticulously and so beautifully, logically and objectively explained. And I think it's worth knowing. Right? We get into raga dveshas, the likes and dislikes of people. Some people like green color, some people like yellow color, some people like blue color, some people hate blue color. Some people hate sour food. Where are those likes and dislikes coming at a very young age? Right. We get into a judgment. How can you be without liking blue here? We get into a judgment. And we pass a judgment that the guy is a useless guy. All those judgments will stop when we have an understanding. Okay. We accept others as they are. We accept ourselves as we are. And I think that is a starting point for peace. Let's not lose the sight of the focus and focus of this purpose of this journey, to live a joyful and a peaceful life, right? So the starting point for peace is always accepting oneself as oneself and accepting others as others, and that's it. Right? Conflicts are less. Right? So I stop here.